Hey everyone, it's Anna Wheaton from Nudge Nudge Ink, getting straight into a technique video for you, which is the technique of mosaicing. This is a wonderful technique to use up scraps of your paper, and we did this in class a couple of months ago, and I'm finally getting around to film a video of it. So I'm going to start showing you 3 different versions of this mosaicing technique, and they're all really cool but all really different. So what I'm doing is starting off with a piece of basic black. This is about half an A4. It's just a rough measurement, and then I have cut some strips of basic white, old name is Whisper White, cardstock, and these are 1.5 centimeters wide. So I've done that ahead of time because otherwise there's a lot of cutting to do, and I don't want to keep you waiting. So I'm using my Tombow. You could use any adhesive here, but you'll see why Tombow is good. And I'm going to stick these onto my black background with a little space in between. So that's why it's good to have liquid glue. You can see I'm just giving those a bit of a wiggle to get them in place. Now, as I'm gluing, I want to make sure my adhesive is not too much. We don't want to squelch out the side, but I do want it to reach well. It's got to go end to end. And also not just be, so I don't want to just do that, okay? You'll see why. I want to just sort of wiggle it over and make sure I'm going from one end to the other. Sticking that on. Oh, that one's a little fluffy. Bit fluffy. So there we go. Like that. And as I said, you can use double-sided tape or snail or whatever. And then you're going to end up with a whole sheet like this. Then grab this sheet and your trimmer, and we're going to cut this into 1.5 centimeter strips. Now you'll see when we finish this that you could do variations on this. I'm just keeping this one square. Once you get the hang of this technique, you can play around and do skinnier strips, wider strips. You could even do a variation of different widths, like so. Okay, so I've got my little checky strips now. Then I'm going to bring in a piece of black cardstock. This is now card front size. So this is 10 by 14.3 centimeters. And you can see that I now have plenty of room to play here. I can stick these this way, or I can stick them this way. I'll go this way. We've got overhang, and we want that on purpose, and you'll see that with the 3 different cards. So again, I'm going to apply my adhesive. I'm going to bring in a little bit of scrap here so that I don't get it all over my background. And I want to make sure it goes over the edge. Okay, so I stick my first one on. Now, it's up to you whether you leave a space there or not, because these won't, I doubt that you'll end up with an even space at the other end. So it doesn't really matter. You could just start right on the edge. Again, I want to make sure my adhesive goes end to end. Now, this time, I don't just want to stick it like that because we want to create some sort of pattern. I'm going to just go down, do a little bit of a step. They'll all be the same. All of these will be the same in relation to all of these because they are the same size. And I'll do that same thing again. So just a step down. You could, of course, stick them on like bricks so that this is the halfway point each time. You can see here now how if you had different widths, so, you know, if one of them was 1.5, one was skinny, one was 2 centimeters, and so on, you could create another version of this pattern. And I'm going to just keep going until these are all the way across. So here you go. You can see my last one. That's why I said it doesn't really matter where you start the other one. In fact, I probably could have started it right on the edge, so that they go edge to edge, no gap. Okay, then they're all stuck on. Okay, what I want to do now is probably leave that to dry a little bit, but I could use my trimmer or just my scissors to cut off that excess. Now, remember I said you want to have the glue from end to end and squiggling across. As you can see here, see on these two, the tiny little bit of white has fallen off because there wasn't any glue on it. So there's my little sliver there. Okay, now that may not bother you. It's part of the effect. Let's see if it happens on this end. Yep, one's fallen off there. All cut off, and then this one. I would rather do this with my trimmer, but because I've got a bit of wet glue, I don't really want to gum up all the guards and things on my trimmer. Okay, so there, oh, that one slid over. That's another reason to wait a little while. Oh, not too late. I can squish it over and still have that gap. Now, I want to come back and trim that. I don't know if you can see that. Because I've slid it over, there's a bit I haven't trimmed off. But I will leave that for now because, ouch, sore back, because I'll let it dry. So here we have an example of a finished version of that. Now I've got remember I said you could face them either way. I've got them going the other way on this card, but we've got just this simple black and white design, a bit like brickwork. And you can also see there where some of those little bits have come off. And to me, that's fine. That looks okay. I have then mounted that. This is actually even smaller, the layer I've mounted them on. It must have been, I only just noticed this, 9.5 by 13.8. I've then layered it on a black piece to give it a border. All right, so that's one version. Okay, next version. I'm going to bring in my 5 in colours. Oh, I'm just noticing they've all got a little indentation on them. That must be from using them in the machine, the stamp cut and emboss machine, and there must have been something on the plate. All right, these ones I'm going to cut my strips, but this time I'm going to angle. So see how I have a fat top, skinny bottom, so to speak. And do the next one. Oh, there's my blade popped out. Hang on. Oop. So I just want to keep angling this cardstock to cut these pieces. Now, if you don't like being too fiddly with all your gluing, cut your pieces to be quite chunky. If you don't mind gluing and you like a fine effect, cut really fine ones. See this one? See how that's quite skinny compared to that one. Great way of using up some scraps. So here I go with my strawberry slush. I'm just going to do a mixture of thicknesses, fat end and a skinny end. So always angling them. And you can see I just alternate. If you keep going fat end up here, fat end, you'll end up with angling your cardstock too much and you'll sort of waste the end. So I just alternate. Fat end, fat end. Last one. Okay. Bear with me. I'll do some of these. I'll do those two at the same time. I've got 2 colours in there. And then I'll have one more colour to go. Which is my Parakeet Party. This is the set of in colours that came in last year, and this carries over now into the 2023-24 catalogue. In colours last 2 years, and they always leapfrog one another. So there's a new set that have come in that are far more nature muted, less bright, and they will stay for 2 years. And these ones will leave halfway through the tenure of the others. All right, so there I have my pile of strips. Okay, so same idea. I'm going to bring in a piece of black cardstock, larger than my, let me bring my scrap in, larger than a card front. Yep. And okay, this time I'll just start right at the edge. Ooh, do not do that. Unfortunately, with Tombow, if it's sticky outside your project, it will remain sticky. That's where you get your embossing buddy and pat it over it to remove the sticky. No, it's not a big deal. Okay, so you can see again here, mostly I'm alternating fat, fat, fat. Wide, wide, wide. I'm one more colour. Now, I'm just going through the colours, and then I'm going to repeat my colour range. You see there I've got two fat together. Doesn't matter. As long as you're sort of just keeping it fairly even so it's not ending up going fat, 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 fat into a big fan. That's a whole other technique. Next one is green. Starry sky, they're buried. Oh, I'll add that little skinny one I did. And one more, possibly two, of my Tahitian Tide. No, I think that'll do it. Okay. So there you go. You've got this. Now that would be a beautiful background anyway. If you trim that off down to card size, you've got that nice uneven stripe. I'll show you another example of it. That's one there. That's got narrower strips on it. Okay. Now what we're going to do, I'll use this one. Like I said, you could just trim that down and use it as a card front, but we're going to do the same thing that we did to the original strips. Oh, that's my scoring blade. Now you can see here as I cut this down, this is where these little pieces, see how that's ended up quite tiny. So if you didn't have much glue behind it, that would come off. It may still happen. Okay, fat, thin, fat, thin. Oh, what did I do there? Okay, so random, just shifting your cardstock back and forth. Like that. Oh, that one's quite, I don't like that. That's too straight. There. Ooh, oh, that skinny one. Oh, they've stayed. I must have glued them well. Okay, now we'll get, let's go that smaller amount. Oh, so this is 9.5 by 13.8. So this is a centimetre smaller than a card front. And I'll show you how this comes together. Now, see how these end up being a little bit longer, which is good. Bring in my scrap again to save Gloomageddon. And I'm going to stick these on. Let's go right to the edge. I'm not setting a very good example here with glue. Oh, there's my blue one. Just, that doesn't matter because that'll be trimmed off. Okay, there's one. Now, we're getting these out of order, which is fine. We're flipping them round. Okay. Oh, God, you'd even think that one's neighbours almost. Let's get a different one. Okay, now, it's up to you now whether you go random or whether you actually want to match them and get a stripe of red going across or so on. But we're just going random. Oh, I've ended up having a bit of a stripe anyway, haven't I? So you're getting this kaleidoscope of colour going across. And it's always good to have a little bit extra. See, I can go a little bit up, a little bit down, depending on how I want to match these. I'm just going to get those. For some reason, I just wanted those blues to connect. Oh, I've got a rogue piece here. See this little one? Okay, that's where you see how important your glue is. Don't tell anyone. Ooh, that's how important it is to not have too much glue. I should be. Fingernail is very good. Corner of cardboard, very good. Let's use this tiny, tiny strip. That'll be cute. I actually don't need to glue them all on because I've got a sample, but anyway. So as I said, if you like imagine if all your strips were that skinny. That would look very cool, but depends on how patient you are. Now I'm going to put two fat ones side by side, two fat ends. Look, there we go. Okay, so same deal. Now I've stuck them all on, edge to edge, end to end. You can flip that over and trim those off with your scissors or your cutter. Now, the reason I flip it over is because you can clearly see the edge that way. If I'm doing it that way, especially with scissors, it's very easy to sort of angle your scissors and make a muck of it. All right, put that aside and I'll show you a finished product of that one. So there it is. So see, another example here. See, I've had a few of the little pieces fall off there, but to me that doesn't matter to that design. I think that works very well. And you can see also that I've actually got my strips going the other way on that one. Whatever takes your fancy. That's why it's great to start with a bigger piece than you need so that your strips are longer and you can decide whether to go landscape or portrait with them. Okay, last variation, which worked really well with my ladies, and a few of them tried and sent me samples of this. This is a piece of 6x6. This particular one is from, this doesn't have its bit of abstract beauty, I think. No, I don't know. But you can see it's fairly, it doesn't have distinct images. So I could use either side. Okay, this time around, what I'm going to do is make my pieces wavy. So my cutting is with a good pair of long bladed scissors, and I'm going to, oh, they're a bit gummy. Oh, they're very gummy. I'm going to cut a wavy piece like so. Now these I don't want to just drop down and lose the order of. I want to keep them in order, okay? So for each one you cut, line them up beside one another. Long-handled scissors are great because you can actually do a fair bit of cutting without opening your scissors. And you'll see often I'm using the paper to move. I'm moving the paper rather than the scissors. Now, don't get too hung up on your cutting. Keep the end in mind. Okay, I'm just going to flip this one around because I've got more to hang on to. Okay, that one goes there, that one goes there. Shift them out of the way. Now, these would be beautiful on a piece of the lavender background or that deep. I think that's probably navy. I didn't think of that. I just grabbed some black, which will work just fine also. Okay, so this time round, same idea. Just grabbing my scrap. Sticking this in place. I'm doing a terrible example of gluing. Keep them in order. And remember, now I'm gluing this one. Now remember, these are going to be cut smaller. So I want to make sure I get my glue here, there, and everywhere. Just not over the edges. Here, there, and everywhere neatly. Bring that into frame. We've just started getting a bit of cool weather, especially in the morning here after a pretty long hot summer. But today's quite warm and I've shut the door to outside just for the noise and also if my son comes home so you don't hear him pulling into the garage. And now I'm sweaty. Sweaty spaghetti. Again, you can see here that the liquid glue is working a treat because I can slide this into place. And also, sometimes you end up with some fairly narrow sections. How's that looking? So remember, this piece of DSP was a 6x6. Now, I need to add this last piece. I'm not going to add glue to it. I'm just going to add some glue here. And here. And here. Yeah. So that I don't have it all over the back of it. Like so. Okay, now I just noticed that that could have been, see, that's a little bit uneven. That's quite narrow, that's quite wide. But you'll see on the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to risk my trimmer now because I've really got to show you the whole process with this one. Cut away the excess. Ew to glue. Okay, yeah, we're getting some glue remover on this now. There's glue there. That's okay. All right, so I end up with this. Now remember, I cut this way, so this time I'm going to turn it this way, do the same thing. Do my wavy cuts. This is a bit sticky because it hasn't quite dried. Oh, it's hot. This is hot work. It's cutting. Like that. Okay, then you grab another piece of black. Actually, I'll trim this down. 9.5 by 13.8. So that allows me, that's a centimetre smaller than a card front. So that allows me to add a bit of another mat if I want to. Now, I'm not going to glue this whole thing while you're watching because I've got some samples, but and I think you get the idea. That one's going to go there. Now, these ones, you can't, you have to match them, okay? You can't really do, I guess you could, but we're aiming to just get those little wavy lines matching up, but we're leaving that space. So that you end up with, isn't that funny? Those are all matched except those, I don't know why. You end up with this crisscross mosaic. And again, if you wanted to make these narrower, you can see, you know, if I had these ones cut narrower, you know, in half, you'd get more of a crisscross effect. Last one, I'm going to just do this. And you'll always end up with some left over. So I've got 2 strips still there. This one has an edge to it, so I could put it inside the card if I wanted to. Okay, there's my mosaic, which I could then trim at the back. Trim all that off and I've got myself a card front. Let me show you what that looks like. We used the Hues of Happiness. So there it is. That's a gorgeous grape as the main colour. So we added a gorgeous grape layer and a greeting. And there you can see how I've used the leftover bit inside just to tie the inside to the front. Then here's a nice idea too. This is one of, I can't remember that, no, I'm still using the word abstract. This is some DSP with some gold in it. And I've done it all on a gold layer, so you can see how that's quite a different effect. I then mounted that on the black, but that's really beautiful. And a few gold accents. Again, my leftover piece is the inside. So there you have it. 3 different ways to do the mosaic technique. Let me find the third one. Straight, angled. In fact, that one's not terribly angled, is it? And with the wavy lines. So there you have it. Really simple, really easy way to use up lots of scraps of paper. I hope that's inspired you. If you like my videos, please like my channel. Hit the thumbs up, as they say, and look out for more videos. Thank you and goodbye.